The sonar reading made no sense, and Dr. Cassian Morrow had been studying oceanic geology for 23 years. "Run it again," he ordered from the command deck of the research vessel Abyssal Pioneer. "There must be an equipment malfunction." His technical officer, Lieutenant Rhett Ashford, shook his head. "Already checked twice, Doctor. All systems are functioning perfectly. The structure is real." Cassian stared at the three-dimensional holographic projection rotating slowly above the console. According to the deep-skin sonar, there was something massive resting on the ocean floor 11 kilometers below them, something that measured over 40 kilometers in diameter and rose nearly 3 kilometers from the seabed. "That is not possible," Cassian said quietly. "Nothing that large can exist at that depth without collapsing under its own weight. The pressure at 11 kilometers would crush any known material. Unless it is not made from known materials," suggested Dr. Nyala Kendrick, the xenoarchaeologist who had joined the expedition at the last minute. She had been studying the hologram with increasing excitement. "Dr. Morrow, look at the geometric precision. Those angles are not natural. This is not a geological formation. This is architecture. Architecture predating human civilization by millions of years, buried under 11 kilometers of ocean?" Cassian said skeptically. "That contradicts everything we know about Earth's history. Or confirms everything we suspected but could never prove," Nyala replied. She pulled up comparative data on her tablet. 3 months ago, similar structures were detected in the Mariana Trench and the Puerto Rico Trench. Both were dismissed as sensor anomalies. But Dr. Morrow, what if they were not anomalies? What if there is an entire network of these structures distributed across Earth's ocean floors? That would mean Earth was inhabited by an advanced civilization millions of years before humans evolved, Rhett said. "That would rewrite every history book ever written." "Not inhabited," Nyala corrected. "Prepared. Look at the placement. These structures are positioned at tectonic plate boundaries, deep ocean trenches, thermal vents, every location where geological activity is most intense. They are not cities or habitations. They are infrastructure." Cassian felt his blood run cold. "Infrastructure for what?" Before Nyala could answer, every system on the Abyssal Pioneer went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in after 3 seconds of absolute darkness. But the main power, the communications array, the navigation systems, everything was offline. "Report!" Cassian snapped. "Massive electromagnetic pulse," Rhett said, his fingers flying over the backup console that ran on isolated circuits. "Origin point is directly below us. The structure is emitting some kind of signal." "Signal?" Nyala breathed. "It is active? After millions of years, it is still active?" The ship's hull groaned as something enormous moved in the depths beneath them. The sonar, now running on emergency power, showed the structure beginning to rise. "All hands, prepare for emergency ascent," Cassian ordered. "We need to move away from." The water around the ship began to glow. At first, it was a faint bioluminescence, the kind produced by deep-sea organisms. But the glow intensified rapidly, shifting from blue to green to white until the entire ocean around them was illuminated by light emanating from something massive rising from the abyss. "What is that?" Rhett whispered. Cassian could not answer. He could only watch through the reinforced viewports as the structure emerged from the darkness below, a massive crystalline formation that defied every law of physics and engineering he had ever studied. It was not built. It had been grown. Organic and technological at the same time. Alive and ancient and utterly alien. And it was looking at them. 12 hours later, Cassian stood in a secure briefing room at Naval Intelligence Headquarters, explaining what he had witnessed to people who had the authority to classify his discovery so deeply that it would never see public light. Admiral Petra Locke listened without interrupting, her expression carved from granite. Beside her sat Agent Ferris Crane from an intelligence agency so secretive that Cassian had never heard of it before today. "So you are telling me," Admiral Locke said when Cassian finished his report, "that there is a 40-kilometer artificial structure sitting on the ocean floor that just woke up after being dormant for millions of years, And it is now active and apparently aware of our presence? That is correct, Admiral, Cassian replied. And you believe there are more of these structures distributed across the ocean floors worldwide? Based on the data Dr. Kendrick compiled, yes. At least 17 confirmed sites with similar energy signatures. Agent Crane leaned forward. Dr. Morrow, I need you to understand the implications of what you are describing. If these structures predate human civilization by millions of years, then either Earth was visited by an extraterrestrial species long before humanity evolved, or Earth itself is not naturally occurring as we understand it. Either scenario would fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of our origins and our place in the universe. I understand that, Cassian said. Which is why I brought it directly to you rather than publishing my findings. A decision we appreciate, Locke said. Unfortunately, the situation has already escalated beyond research protocols. 20 minutes ago, the structure you discovered began transmitting. Cassian felt his stomach drop. Transmitting what? We do not know. The signal is not directed at any Earth-based receiver. It is aimed at a point in space approximately 4 light-years away. Whatever that structure is, it is not abandoned technology. It is a beacon. And it just called home. The room fell silent as the implication settled over everyone present. How long until someone answers? Cassian asked quietly. Unknown, Crane replied. But I would not bet on it taking long. Dr. Morrow, I am authorizing an immediate deep dive expedition to the structure. We need to know what it is, who built it, and what its activation means for humanity. You and your team will lead the scientific component. Naval Special Operations will provide security and logistics support. You want me to dive 11 kilometers and physically investigate a technology we do not understand that just sent a signal to something 4 light-years away? Cassian said incredulously. Yes, Locke said flatly. Because if we do not figure out what that thing is before whoever it called arrives, humanity might find itself in a situation we are catastrophically unprepared to handle. You found it, Doctor. Now you get to explain it. 3 days later, Cassian descended into darkness aboard the deep-sea submersible Prometheus, accompanied by Nyala and a Navy SEAL named Lieutenant Commander Jax Moreno, who looked far too calm for someone diving into the unknown. Passing 6 kilometers, Brett's voice crackled through the calm from the support ship above. All systems nominal. Exterior pressure is approaching 400 atmospheres. Cassian watched through the reinforced viewport as the last traces of surface light vanished. They were in the abyssal zone now, deeper than most submarines could operate, in a realm of crushing pressure and absolute darkness. Except it was not dark. The structure glowed below them like a drowned city made of starlight. As Prometheus descended, Cassian could see details that the sonar had missed: vast corridors, chambers large enough to hold buildings, conduits that pulsed with internal light, and patterns carved into every surface that looked simultaneously like circuit diagrams and organic growth rings. This is not a beacon, Nyala breathed, her face pressed against the viewport. This is a facility. A massive underground facility that extends for kilometers in every direction. Facility for what? Jax asked, his hand resting casually on the specialized weapon he had brought for underwater combat. I have no idea, Nyala admitted. But look at the architecture. It is designed to withstand unimaginable pressure, operate in complete isolation, and function for geological timescales. Whatever this was built to do, it was meant to last forever. Prometheus settled onto a landing platform that seemed to have been waiting for them. The structure had shifted to create a docking area perfectly sized for their submersible. That is convenient and terrifying, Jax observed. It is like it knew we were coming. It probably did, Cassian said. If it could detect us 3 kilometers above, it certainly knows we are here now. The question is whether it considers us welcome or intrusive. They suited up in experimental deep-pressure exoskeletons, technology that allowed humans to survive at depths that would normally crush them instantly. Cassian had tested the suits in controlled environments, but never at 11 kilometers, and never inside an alien structure of unknown purpose. The airlock cycled, The external hatch opened, and they stepped into impossibility. The interior of the structure was breathable. Cassian's atmospheric sensors showed 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, trace gases, standard Earth atmosphere at sea level, maintained somehow inside a structure 11 kilometers underwater. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "The same way all of this is possible," Nyala replied, her voice filled with awe. "Technology so advanced it looks like magic. This facility has been maintaining breathable atmosphere for millions of years. The energy requirements alone should be impossible." They moved deeper into the structure, following corridors that seemed to guide them towards something. The walls pulsed with gentle light, creating patterns that felt almost like communication. Not words, but intent. Direction. Purpose. "I feel like we are being led somewhere," Jack said, his tactical instincts clearly on alert. "We are," Cassian confirmed. "The question is whether we want to arrive at the destination." They had no choice. Behind them, the corridors had begun to seal, rearranging themselves in ways that blocked retreat. Forward was the only option. After 20 minutes of descent through increasingly massive chambers, they emerged into a space so vast that Cassian initially thought they had somehow surfaced back into open ocean. But this was not ocean. This was a chamber that stretched for kilometers in every direction, filled with technology that hummed with power. And at the center, something waited. It was not alive. It was not dead. It existed somewhere between states, a consciousness preserved in crystalline matrices that had endured for millions of years. When it spoke, the words formed directly in their minds, not telepathy, but something more fundamental. Direct neural interface. "Welcome, children of Earth. We have been waiting for you." Cassian forced himself to respond, though his voice shook. "Who are you? What is this place?" "We are the architects," the presence replied. "And this place is your birthright. Earth was never a random world where life coincidentally emerged. It was a garden, carefully designed and seeded. You are not natives. You are inheritors." "That is impossible," Nyala said. "Humans evolved naturally over millions of years. We have fossil records, genetic evidence, complete evolutionary history. You evolved exactly as designed," the architects responded. "This world was prepared 4 billion years ago. The atmosphere was calibrated. The oceans were seeded with the precise chemistry needed to spark life. The continental plates were arranged to create climatic diversity. The moon was positioned to stabilize axial tilt. Every element of Earth was engineered to produce intelligent life. You are the result of the longest-running experiment in galactic history." "Why?" Cassian demanded. "Why create us?" "Because we were dying," the architect said, and for the first time, the presence sounded almost sad. "Our civilization had reached the limits of physical existence. We could not evolve further. We could not adapt to the changes coming to the galaxy. So we created you. Resilient. Adaptable. Capable of surviving in conditions we could not tolerate. We seeded 40,000 worlds across the galaxy with the potential for life. Only 12 succeeded. Earth was the most successful." The presence showed them images, visions of worlds transforming, life emerging, civilizations rising and falling. And through it all, the architects watched, guided, maintained the infrastructure that kept the experiments running. "The facilities you discovered are maintenance stations," the architects explained. "They regulate tectonic activity, manage ocean currents, adjust atmospheric composition, prevent extinction events that would end the experiment prematurely. For 4 billion years we have protected Earth. For 4 billion years we have waited to see if you would survive to maturity." "And have we?" Jax asked bluntly. "That is what we must determine," the architects replied. "You have achieved technological sophistication. You have left your homeworld and established colonies on neighboring bodies. You have developed the capacity for both creation and destruction. But you have not yet proven you can survive contact with the greater galactic community." "What do you mean?" Cassian asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. The signal we transmitted was not a call home, the architects said. It was a challenge. We broadcast to the galaxy that Earth has reached maturity, that humanity is ready to take its place among the spacefaring civilizations. Within days, representatives from those civilizations will arrive to assess you, to determine if you are ready, to decide if you should be welcomed or eliminated. Horror flooded through Cassian. Eliminated? You built us, protected us for billions of years, and now you are inviting aliens to potentially destroy us? We protected you through childhood, the architects corrected. But childhood must end. You cannot remain isolated forever. The galaxy is not a safe place. There are species that would enslave you, others that would exterminate you as competition, some that would study you as curiosities. You must prove you can defend yourselves, negotiate your survival, and claim your place through strength and wisdom combined. That is why we designed you to evolve on a Class 12 death world. That is why we gave you resilience, adaptability, and the capacity for both cooperation and conflict. You are our answer to the hostile galaxy. But you must prove you can survive on your own. How much time do we have? Nyala asked. The first visitors will arrive in 72 hours, the architects replied. You have 3 days to prepare humanity for first contact. 3 days to decide how you will present yourselves. 3 days to demonstrate that you are worthy of the billions of years we invested in your creation. And if we fail? Cassian whispered. Then we will sterilize the planet and begin again. Earth is too valuable to leave in the hands of a failed experiment. The infrastructure will remain. The potential will remain. We will seed new life and wait another billion years if necessary. We are patient. We are eternal. You are not. The presence withdrew, leaving them alone in the massive chamber with the weight of impossible knowledge. They created us, Nyala said numbly. Everything we are, everything we have accomplished, it was all engineered. We are not natural. We are artificial. Does that matter? Jax said quietly. Both scientists turned to stare at him. The seal shrugged. So what if we were designed? Does that make our achievements less real? Does that make our struggles less meaningful? We still fought. We still survived. We still built civilizations from nothing. Whether we were created by random chance or deliberate engineering does not change what we have become. Cassian found himself nodding slowly. He is right. The architects gave us potential. But we realized that potential ourselves. Every war we fought. Every discovery we made. Every time we chose cooperation over conflict or conflict over extinction, those were our choices. Not theirs. They built the garden, but we grew the flowers. And now we have 3 days to prove those flowers have thorns, Nyala added. 3 days to convince potentially hostile aliens that humanity deserves to survive. They returned to the surface with their impossible knowledge. Cassian briefed Admiral Locke and Agent Crane. Within hours, the information reached the highest levels of every government on Earth. Emergency sessions were called. Militaries mobilized. Scientists scrambled to understand technology that had been protecting Earth without humanity ever knowing it existed. But the most important meeting happened in a secure bunker beneath Geneva, where world leaders gathered to answer a single question: how do we present humanity to the galaxy? We need to show strength, argued General Hammond of the United States Armed Forces. These aliens need to see that we are not easy prey. We mobilize every military asset. We show them that attacking Earth would be costly. We need to show wisdom, countered Ambassador Ismail of the Pan-African Coalition. Appearing too aggressive could mark us as threats to be eliminated preemptively. We should emphasize our cultural achievements, our scientific progress, our capacity for peaceful cooperation. We need to show truth, Cassian said quietly. Every head turned toward him. He stood, feeling the weight of billions of lives depending on what happened next. The architects designed us to survive a hostile galaxy. They gave us resilience, adaptability, and the capacity for both peace and war. We should show exactly what that combination creates. We do not hide our weapons or pretend to be harmless. But we also do not threaten first contact with aggression. We show them that humanity is dangerous when threatened and reasonable when respected. We show them that we survived a death world not through luck but through determination. We show them that we are exactly what the architects intended, survivors who choose cooperation when possible and conflict when necessary. Admiral Locke nodded slowly. Dr. Morrow is right. We present ourselves as we are. Peaceful but prepared. Reasonable but resilient. Willing to cooperate but capable of defending ourselves. That is the only honest answer we can give. The decision was made. 72 hours later, the first alien vessel arrived. It did not come alone. 17 ships representing 14 different civilizations entered Earth's solar system, each one assessing humanity through sensors and strategies developed over millions of years of galactic politics. They found Earth's military forces deployed but not aggressive. Weapons active but not targeting. Communication channels open but not desperate. And at the head of the human delegation that went to meet them, Dr. Cassian Morrow carried a message that had been crafted by every nation on Earth working together for the first time in human history. The aliens gathered in a neutral space, a massive station that the architects had apparently maintained in Earth's orbit without humanity ever detecting it. Representatives from species that had existed for millions of years looked at humanity with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. "You are young," said the eldest, a being of such age that its species' name had been forgotten. "Young and arrogant. You were created by the architects, yet you dare to claim independence?" "We were created by the architects," Cassian agreed. "But we were shaped by Earth. The architects gave us potential. The planet gave us purpose. We survived conditions that would exterminate most of your species within days. We fought through ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and our own worst impulses. We made mistakes. We committed atrocities. We destroyed and rebuilt and learned from every failure. That is what makes us independent. Not our origin, but our journey. Journey means nothing without achievement," said a crystalline entity called the Observer. "What have you contributed to the galaxy? What value do you bring?" "We bring what the architects designed us to bring," Nyala responded. She had been chosen to represent human scientific achievement. Adaptability. We solve problems that have single solutions by finding solutions that should not work but do anyway. We survive impossible conditions by refusing to accept impossibility. We cooperate across genetic, cultural, and ideological barriers because our entire history taught us that cooperation is survival. You ask what we contribute? We contribute the proof that intelligence can emerge from chaos. That civilization can arise from conflict. That hope can survive in the darkest places. Words, sneered the destroyer, a military commander from a species built for warfare. You speak of survival, yet you have never faced real combat. Your weapons are primitive. Your tactics are theoretical. What happens when you face an actual threat? Then we do what we have always done, said General Hammond, representing Earth's military forces. We adapt. We endure. We win. Our weapons may be primitive by your standards, but they were sufficient to survive on a death world rated Class 12 for lethality. Our tactics may be theoretical, but they were developed through 10,000 years of constant warfare against ourselves. You mock our inexperience with alien combat. We survived something harder, learning to stop fighting each other long enough to build a civilization. That takes more strength than you realize. The gathered aliens conferred among themselves in languages human translators could barely parse. Finally, the eldest spoke again. The architects have presented 40,000 experiments to the galaxy over the past billion years. Most failed before achieving intelligence. Others destroyed themselves through warfare or environmental collapse. Some were eliminated because they proved too aggressive or too passive to survive galactic politics. Only 17 species from architect experiments have been accepted into the galactic community. You would be the 18th. The eldest paused, and Cassian felt the weight of that hesitation. But you are unusual. Most successful experiments were peaceful species that required protection. You are neither peaceful nor aggressive. You exist in the space between, choosing cooperation when possible and conflict when necessary. That makes you unpredictable, dangerous, potentially valuable or potentially catastrophic depending on circumstances we cannot foresee. So you are going to eliminate us for being unpredictable? Cassian asked quietly. No, the eldest said. We are going to watch you. The architect facilities will remain active. Earth will continue to be monitored. But you will be granted provisional independence. You may explore. You may establish colonies. You may trade and negotiate with other species. But you will be observed. And if you prove to be a threat, if you choose aggression over cooperation, if you endanger the galactic balance, you will be eliminated. Is that acceptable? Cassian looked at his fellow delegates. Nyala nodded slightly. Hammond gave the barest indication of agreement. This was the best outcome they could hope for, survival with strings attached. It is acceptable, Cassian said. Then welcome to the galaxy, humanity. May you prove worthy of the investment the architects made in your creation. And may you remember that being created for a purpose does not obligate you to fulfill that purpose in any particular way. You are free. What you do with that freedom will determine your fate. The alien vessels departed. Earth had survived its trial. In the deep places beneath the ocean, the architect facilities continued their eternal vigil, maintaining the infrastructure that kept Earth stable. But for the first time in 4 billion years, they did so not for an experiment but for an independent civilization. Cassian stood in the briefing room where this had all begun and looked at the holographic display showing the structure that had changed everything. We are not natural, he said quietly to Nyala and Rhett, who had stayed with him through everything. Everything we thought about our origins was wrong. We were built, designed, engineered to specifications we are only beginning to understand. Does that diminish us? Nyala asked. No, Cassian admitted. If anything, it makes our achievements more impressive. The architects gave us a foundation. We built civilizations on top of it. They gave us resilience. We chose to use it for cooperation as much as conflict. They designed us to survive a hostile galaxy. We survived and chose to be kind anyway. That is not programming. That is choice. That is what makes us human. And now the galaxy is watching to see what we do with that choice. Rhett added. No pressure. Cassian laughed despite himself. 71 hours ago, I thought the biggest question was how deep ocean structures could withstand impossible pressure. Now the question is whether humanity can navigate galactic politics while staying true to who we are. One question at a time, Nyala said. That is how we survived for 4 billion years. One problem, one solution, one choice at a time. The architects may have built the garden, but we grew the flowers. And we will continue growing, continue evolving, continue choosing who we want to be. That is what makes us worthy of their investment. Not that we succeeded, but that we keep trying to be better. Far beneath the ocean, in chambers that had existed since before life on Earth began, the architects observed and calculated and waited. Humanity had passed the first test. There would be others. The galaxy was vast and hostile and filled with challenges the young species could not yet imagine. But the architects were patient. And humanity, they had learned, was stubborn. It was a combination that might just prove successful. The ocean kept it secret, but now humanity knew what lay beneath the waves. The question was what they would do with that knowledge. The answer would define their future among the stars. If you enjoyed this story, like the video and subscribe for more. Thank you.